Welcome to episode 241 of the podcast. Before we get started, I want to share a few exciting updates to our content here at AGEIST. First, for all of our newsletter subscribers, beginning this week, we will be introducing an additional Sunday version of the magazine. Our normal Thursday newsletter will remain largely the same, but look out for fresh new articles, features, and inspiration in our Sunday send. Also, last but not least, I am bringing on the senior editor at AGEIST, Margaret May, to the podcast. She brings a fresh voice and perspective to the show, and we'll be getting her thoughts on the main interview at the end of those interviews, as well as chatting about the latest news in the longevity space each week. Looking forward to that and more after a quick word from our sponsors. Ever have those days where your brain feels foggy, like the lights are on but nobody's home? We've all had them. And that's where Troscriptions comes in. These small, precisely formulated buccal troches are designed by doctors and backed by science. Whether you're after sharper focus, deeper relaxation, improved immunity, or better sleep, there's a troche for that. I've been using them, and honestly, game changer. Go to Troscriptions.com and use code AGEIST for 10% off today. This show is also brought to you by Maui Nui. Maui Nui's wild venison is the cleanest, most nutrient-dense red meat out there. It's high in protein, rich in antioxidants, and ethically harvested. Their venison sticks are perfect for healthy snacking on the go. Check it out in the link in bio or go to mauinuivenison.com/ageist. Today's show is also brought to you by LMNT, spelled LMNT. Go to drinklmnt.com and get yourself a free 8-serving sample pack with the purchase of any of their electrolyte drink mixes. Today we have John Koten on the podcast. John is a 70-year-old writer for the Wall Street Journal who decided to investigate women's skincare for men of a certain age. And it's fascinating, the rabbit hole that he went down and what he found and the effect it had on his skin. Short version, it's not too late for us. Here's some of what John and I talk about.
At first, I just started using a moisturizer that was recommended to me by my physical therapist that he likes to use. And I really liked it. And then I started wondering, well, what else is out there that I might like? And so I bought some more stuff, and then I bought some more stuff, and the next thing I know, I had to research, well, what differences each one of these things make and what's better than the other things, because now I got to start making choices between what to use of all the things I have. So I started doing research, and when I started doing research, it was just like I fell down a rabbit hole.
We are going to get with John Koten right now, Wall Street Journal writer. He wrote an incredibly popular article for the Wall Street Journal, which shocked him and the Journal and everyone else, where he talks about skincare. He goes into the world, the deep rabbit hole of women's skincare, and how does that work on a 70-year-old guy? Answer, really well. So he's going to name some names. We're going to get some specifics in this conversation. Let's give John a call right now. John, good to see you.
Good to see you, David.
Where does this podcast find you today?
I am in my own little wood shop on City Island in the Bronx, New York.
I've been around New York for about, 45 years. I think I've been through there once. Tell us, what is City Island?
It's a very small island, and it's located in the Bronx, right on where the East River feeds into Long Island Sound. And it was for many years a very famous whaling center. After that, it was a fishing place, still a lot of boats, a lot of sailors, but, it's nothing like it would have been 100 years ago.
But my understanding is you're a lifelong sailor.
I am. That kind of is what, propelled me into the issue of skincare, because I ignored skincare for, I'm 70 years old, and for the vast majority of my life, I would occasionally put on sunscreen or what we call suntan lotion, but I always used to think that the reason for that was to not get a bad sunburn that would, make it hard for you to sleep at night. And I never really understood, how the skin works or why sunscreen might be more valuable than just preventing sunburns. I mean, the culture around skincare has changed so much during my lifetime. When I was a kid or a teenager, I used to use something called Bain de Soleil oil, which is something you smeared over your body with the idea of you're going to get a deep, dark tan. And there's almost nothing you could do that would be worse than that. I was ignorant, and being as a sailor and being out on the water all the time, you just get not only the sun beating down on you, but reflecting up off the water and off the sails on the boat. And it's almost like you're wearing one of those things people used to have where you put it like a mirror that you put around your neck to reflect the sun up onto your face. Also not a good thing to be doing for your skin. If I could do it all over again, I'd be much better about sun protection. So there's been a real change in the understanding, particularly among, younger people, about how important taking care of your skin is.
I want to ask you, as a 70-year-old sailor, suddenly you decide, I want to find out about skincare. Like, was this a white light experience? Like, what?
So in the last 15 years or so, I've had a lot of little operations on my face to remove basal cell and squamous cell carcinoma. I'm lucky I've never had a melanoma, although my sister has. And last year, about the middle of last year, I had my 20th skincare surgery on my face. And I started to think maybe I don't want to do this as much anymore. And, my dermatologist has been telling me, wise up, John. But, I like to think that I'm tough. And that I don't really need that kind of help. But, 20 operations is pretty persuasive. And so at first I just started using a moisturizer that was recommended to me by my physical therapist that he likes to use. He's a younger guy, also more into skincare than I ever would have been at his age. And I really liked it. And then I started wondering, well, what else is out there that I might like? And so I bought some more stuff, and then I bought some more stuff, and the next thing I know, I had to research, what differences each one of these things make, and what's better than the other things, because now I got to start making choices between what to use of all the things I have. So I started doing research, and when I started doing research, it was just like I fell down a rabbit hole. And I quickly decided that the products that made for men, while they're not bad, are pretty limited. And so I decided it'd be fun to venture into women's skincare and start using their products and see how I like them. And by and large, I thought they were a lot better than the men's products, that they felt better to put on. They seemed to be at least as effective. Men's skincare products will tell you that, the companies that make them, that men's skin is a little bit thicker than women's skin. And so men's products are formulated differently because of that difference. But I'm not buying it. I think women are much more discerning consumers than men are in this subject. Most of them have spent their entire lives working with these products. I mean, my mother never took me aside and said, John, here's how you put on a moisturizer. But she sure did for my sister. And I think when I know from covering business for the Wall Street Journal for many years that when you have a demanding customer base, you have to perform better than when you're selling something to people who don't know what they're doing. So I really like the women's products. There are some that have been around a while that, that some women have grown attached to because of their fragrance, and they really like putting on this particular one. Those tend to be sort of a little too feminine for me. And there's a couple I tried that, when I put them on, I thought I smelled like my grandmother. So those got shipped right over to my wife. But, the other thing is that it's a little bit of a misnomer to say men's and women's face care, because most of the big companies, whether it's, L'Oreal or Estee Lauder, the products that are turning out now are pretty gender neutral in terms of the packaging. And, women have become wary about products with fragrances because fragrances can be irritating. So there are fewer and fewer products that have any fragrance whatsoever, or maybe just a very light fragrance. And so I don't find, the smells of those any of the new products bad at all. I mean, in fact, I enjoy a lot of them. There's a company in Paris called Laboratories Valorgia, and I love the way every single one of their products smells. Whether it's a moisturizer or an essence or anything. And they all smell exactly the same. I don't know how they do that, but I like using their stuff just for the smell.
I want to get into the methodology of this. So here we got a 70-year-old guy, no experience in this world at all. And if you've ever been into the basement level of Bergdorf's, it's like 10,000 square feet of this stuff. Like, how does it even make sense of it? Talk to me about the journey. Like, how did you decide? I remember reading the article. First, you went to Kiehl's and they did a scan of you.
Yeah, well, before I did that, I started making lists of products that I wanted to try. And I got out copies of the sort of the annual rankings that Vogue and Cosmopolitan and Glamour do for women on skincare. And I figured, same idea. Women know better about this than men, so I'm going to go to the source. And I started making lists of those, and I was sort of a little blown away by how many great products they recommend. And that started seeming a little intimidating. So I needed to figure out a way to kind of organize what I wanted to do from that list of products. And there are thousands. I mean, if you take the whole world into account, there might be 100,000 face care products out there. It's kind of crazy. And I don't know why there have to be so many or why one particular product just doesn't dominate everything. But like L'Oreal's the biggest face care company out there right now, but they own a bunch of different face care brands. They own Kiehl's, they own Aesop, they own SkinCeuticals, they own CeraVe, which you get in the drugstore, which is very good stuff. Why do they need that many brands? I don't really know, but I guess maybe it's to each his own a little bit. Not everybody has, the same skin. There's a lot of variety, and it could be that some things work better for some people than others. But yeah, so I went to Kiehl's partly because their flagship store is just down the street from me. And they have a machine in there that does a skincare analysis for free. So I stuck my head in that thing to see, what bad shape I was in and what my priorities should be they pretty much found everything was wrong with me. It's like I had really, really bad scores, and particularly from sun damage on my face. And so I tried to understand what the situation was with my skin, and it's tends to be dry, particularly in the winter, very dry. It can get a little oily in the summer, and that's another thing that people should know is that when you're looking at this, they'll say, oh, is your skin dry or is your skin oily? Or is your skin, a combination of the two? Or do you have mature skin? Well, your skin changes almost every day, depending upon what you've been doing. And, did you work up a sweat or, and draw oils into your skin? Or did you lay in bed all day and just dried out in the dry air conditioning? I think people do have tendencies one way or the other, but you shouldn't just assume that because you're told that your skin is oily, that it's always oily. It might just be the time of the year when you're doing it. They gave me some ideas. They sold me some products. I brought those home, threw them into the mix, and then just kept going and, reading more and more about this. And then I called my editor at the Wall Street Journal and said, no one's ever done this story about a man traipsing around in the world of women's skincare. What do you think? And he said, I think it's a great idea. So once that happened, now I had the license to start calling people at skincare companies and dermatologists and, experts, professors of dermatology to learn as much as I possibly could. And then I started getting more serious about comparing products. So I would take 2 moisturizers, and I would put one on my right arm every day and one on my left arm every day, and then after a week, see which made my skin more moist. Or I'd use like brown spot serums on one arm and a different brown spot serum on the other arm to see if I could make my brown spots go away. And that's where I ended up with recommending to people that they try this Korean product called Dominus, which has niacinamide in it, which is really good for clearing up brown spots and controlling the melanin production in your skin. When my story finally came out, Dominus sold out like within hours on Amazon. There's a lot of people with brown spots. I had no idea.
From the time when you decided your editor gave you the go, what was the investigative time period on this?
I worked on it for 6 months, but it wasn't like 12 hours a day. It was like I wanted it to be something that was fun, but every day I would do reading and I'd experiment with my products and changing my morning routine and my afternoon routine and putting different things on my skin to see what difference it made. And sometimes it's really hard to see if there's any difference. And, a lot of these products really don't work that well for you unless you've used them for a couple of months. A lot of it just came down to like, what do I think feels good? What seems to have the right things in it based on what the science says and what I felt comfortable using. And it was like really super important to me because I have a tendency to go plunging into things that lasts for 6 months and then I'm on to something completely different, which was good when I was a reporter because, I was doing different stories all the time. And that suited my personality. But the very important thing to me was to find products to use that I like using, that I look forward to using, so that I have an incentive beyond just my own self-discipline, which is, questionable at times.
There's sort of another realm of these sort of products, which they're not things you put on your skin. They're things like, there's like red light, there's these sort of electrostimulator devices, wands and stuff. There's things you roll your face with. I don't know what the word for those things are, but did you get into any of that?
No, because it's just that it was too far beyond the scope of the story.
Okay.
Like we said earlier, there's so many skincare products. Just dealing with what you can buy in a bottle and a jar is overwhelming all by itself. And the first draft of the story I turned in to my editor was twice as long as the story that ran in the paper because I was having such trouble getting all the information down into a concise form. So if I had added procedures into it, well, I would have had to do a whole nother story and maybe 2 other stories. I am trying a red light, one of those red light masks. Oh, yeah. I'm using the one that Wirecutter recommended as their favorite. I've only used it twice, so I can't really say yet. But this subject is sort of sticking with me. I've gotten, hundreds of letters from people asking for advice about skincare. And, some of the products I mentioned like I said, have sold out. A whole small company that makes skincare products told me this whole line sold out within days after the story appeared. So now I'm thinking, well, maybe I should do more with this. Maybe I should do a podcast, or maybe I should do a Substack, or maybe I should write a book. So I'm continuing my research, and I enjoy trying new things. It's still going on. I haven't stopped.
I just love this. And I have a media company, and if I ran the Wall Street Journal, I would say, John, we want a monthly column on your latest experiments. I can tell you it would be massive.
Yeah, I think you're right. They used 2 full pages in the paper for the story, but it was the last 2 pages in a special section. And yet the whole thing blew up online. It was on Apple News. The Journal ended up running it, featuring it, for 6 or 7 days as one of their top online stories. I don't know if it's because my writing was so great. I think it was more that people are more interested in this topic than they ever have been. And the other thing that it really gratified me, you kind of would expect this from the Wall Street Journal, but not on this topic, is that the vast majority of the letters I got asking for skincare advice were from men, not from women. I got a lot from women too, but, if I got 200, 150 were from men and 50 were from women. Some guys even sent me their picture. I got one cranky letter. It was from a man in his 50s somewhere in the South telling me that, I was full of crap because skincare products are addictive. And that if you put moisturizer on your skin will stop doing its own work and just become dependent upon the moisturizer.
Huh.
And so he refuses to use any of this because it's just a scam by the skincare companies to get us all addicted to this stuff. There is a slight grain of truth to that. And the grain of truth is that we can't really reverse the age of our skin. We can make our skin healthier, look younger, and look like it's younger, but the underlying process driven by your DNA, you continue to age. What products are doing is helping the skin, supplementing what the skin already does and giving it more. So if you stop taking a peptide product or you stop using a moisturizer, you'll go back to where you were. You can't permanently fix it. And so in that sense, they are addictive because you start using this stuff and your skin looks nicer and you want to keep it that way. So of course, you keep using the products. Why not? Unless you just decide you want to look like a hairy old beast,
I know. It's like, well, so is toothpaste, right?
I said, that's what I wrote to him. Asked him, I wrote back and I said, would you call toothpaste addictive? No,
Okay.
it's definitely a maintenance thing. But, that's why some of the products are really good at making your skin look younger is that like some of the new peptide products, your skin is a mass of cells that communicates with each other, and there are cells that give messages to other cells, but that activity slowly dies down as you get older. And there are probably environmental and other factors, like if you don't exercise and you're not taking care of your cardiovascular health, then your blood isn't doing for your skin what it would have done otherwise. So your whole body has to be healthy in order to have perfectly healthy skin. The advantage of the skin is that you turn the whole thing over every month, right? Every day you're walking around and every minute thousands of skin cells are flying off your face every minute, all over your whole body. You're just shedding like a snake, except not like a snake because it's not all coming off at once. And the renewal process means that the cells that are just now being born in your skin will get to the surface after 30 days. And if you're taking care of them the whole way up to the top, they will be much more healthy than the skin that they're replacing. And that's one of the reasons why it may take months before you really get to see dramatic results with skincare, because you need to go through that cycle several times before you really have healthier skin cells.
100%. Yeah. None of this stuff is immediate. I started with a red light mask. I do my meditation, then when I put my mask on and I put my headphones on, I do my meditation, I sort of do it all at once. And then I went to a panel, and I have to say, 2 or 3 weeks later, yeah, something's working there. I don't know what. It takes a while, though. It's not like an overnight thing.
Yeah, no, but people are getting good results with those LED things, and I would have started using it sooner, but I didn't want it to pollute my experiments with all the other products. And that's another complicating factor, is that if you go through a skincare routine, I was putting on, up to 7 things, 7 steps in the morning. Well, actually, for about 6 weeks, I did a 10-step Korean routine in the morning and at night. That was really good, but I just, you end up spending, 45 minutes to an hour a day applying product to your face and taking it off, and there was just too much for me. So I wanted to get it down to, 4 things maybe.
We'll be right back with John Koten. Ever, quick word for the sponsors of this show. We all want to think clearer, feel better, and perform at our peak. But brain fog, stress, and fatigue can get in the way. That's where Troscriptions comes in. Troscriptions isn't just a supplement company. They're a team of doctors, scientists, and biohackers creating pharmaceutical-grade, precision-dosed nootropics that help you optimize your mind and body. Unlike traditional supplements, their buccal troches or small dissolvable squares bypass digestion and deliver fast, effective results. Whether you need deeper focus, stress relief, better sleep, or stronger immunity, Troscriptions has science-backed solutions for you. Some of their top formulas include TroCalm for fast stress relief and a sense of balance. They have Tromune, which I use every day. It's a powerhouse immune and inflammation fighter with cordyceps to keep you resilient. There's Blue Canatine, a game-changing nootropic for sustained energy, sharp focus, and cognitive performance. Personally, I've been using Tromune all winter, and I haven't gotten sick. Not only does it boost my immunity, I'm sleeping deeper and waking up more refreshed. If you're serious about upgrading your brain and your body, check out Troscriptions, because better performance starts with better biochemistry. Use the code AGEIST for 10% off at Troscriptions.com. That's AGEIST for 10% off, because you deserve to think, feel, and perform your best. I was a Maui Nui customer for a year, and I'm so pleased to now have them as a sponsor of this podcast. This, I gotta say, is the best protein I have ever had. If you want to get all the benefits of high-quality red meat without the junk, here's what makes Maui Nui really special. This is not farmed meat. It comes from wild access deer. Now, these are not good guys. They are an invasive species in Hawaii, causing havoc on the local ecosystem. By harvesting these animals humanely, Maui Nui is restoring the balance to the environment while providing one of the most sustainable, ethical meat options out there. You're not just eating better, you're doing better. It's lean, it's clean, it's free from all the additives and stress hormones you'd normally find in conventionally raised meat. Their starter box is a great way to begin, with premium cuts, step-by-step cooking tips, or just stock up on the sticks and bone broth and keep it easy. So if you're someone who cares about health, performance, and the planet, ditch the beef. Go to MauiNuiVenison.com/ageist or click on the link in our show notes and try a better red meat. Is it okay? Can we name names here? Is that all right?
Oh, sure.
Okay, great. Because I know we're going to get these questions. Tell me, what's the routine? So now you've gone through this, you've sort of sifted through, this is what works. I don't want to spend an hour a day rubbing stuff on my face. What are you doing?
I'll tell you what I'm doing now.
Okay.
And there's a different step-by-step process in the morning and a different one for the night. And then I actually have an alternate during the day, which I'll explain. The first thing you got to do in the morning is clean your face. Now, a lot of people go overboard with that. Sometimes I just use water and just rinse my face off, because how dirty are you getting in when you're in bed at night? If I sweated a lot at night, I'll use something called Vanicream Cleanser. Vanicream is also a Wirecutter recommends it as a top choice. I picked it because, and you can buy it in the drugstore, I picked it because I read a lot of studies with clinical trials, and Vanicream just always seemed to be the cleanser that the scientists were using. And I think it's because it leaves the least residue and has the least impact on the other products, which all sounds good to me. So Vanicream is my number one skincare thing, although I'll get to another one later. Then after that, I have an optional step, and I sometimes do it and sometimes don't, and that's applying an essence. And the one I use is made by a company in London named after a German scientist who was called Augustinus Bader.
Oh, I know that stuff. In the blue, it's like that, ultramarine blue.
Blue bottles with gold trim.
Yeah.
I like their essence. So in the morning when I want a splash of something on my face, I'll just start with that. It's way better than using like an aftershave or something. It's a little bracing, but it's so much better for your skin than that crap that they tell men to put on their face after they shave. A lot of which has alcohol in it, and alcohol is not good for your skin whether you apply it topically or drink it. After that, the workhorse of my routine is something called Plated, which is a product that comes from Minnesota. It was discovered by, the main ingredient in it was discovered by the Mayo Clinic. There were scientists there working with blood platelets who realized that the skin on their hands, which they weren't using gloves, they were just handling the blood platelets with their bare skin, and they noticed that their skin improved. And they were amazed. And so they did more research about it and turned it into this formula that this company called Plated, the product's called Plated, sells. And I think it's a new sort of like peptide product that's derived directly from human blood. They get the blood from blood banks that the blood is about to expire, so the blood bank can't use it anymore. And they turn it into a face care product. So sort of reminds me of the like ancient warring tribes where they would smear blood on their face to scare their enemies. Now you can buy this product and do the same thing without looking like that. Um, the next thing I put on is some vitamin C. I like a product called Skin Medica, C&E, because it releases the C in sort of a time-release form. The other really popular and very good one is made by SkinCeuticals, a L'Oreal brand. It's called CE Ferulic. The reason you want C on your face, or C and E and ferulic, is for antioxidant protection. You're just protecting your skin against oxidation, which does have a corrosive effect and tends to do bad things to skin cells. So then I go back to Augustinus Bader and their Rich Cream for my moisturizer. And I feel a little ashamed of myself because this costs about $305 a bottle. So I only use it in the morning to save money, to stretch it out. My wife discovered that you can buy it at Costco for about $225 a bottle. And if you subscribe to their plan, you can get it for that price directly from Bader. I like this because I think it's just full of really good stuff, and I just like the way my face feels all day when I put this on. It's like there used to be some kind of advertising slogan like we put something on and you feel like you're wearing nothing. Well, that's how this feels. And then after that, I got to go with sunscreen, and I use one of two different sunscreens depending upon my mood. One is LMNT, which is the #1 recommended sunscreen from dermatologists, and it's a great sunscreen. However, it doesn't work as well with the Augustinus Bader Rich Cream as Augustinus Bader's own sunscreen, which they just introduced about a month ago. And so I've been working kind of off the LMNT and using the Bader too. So that's 3 Augustinus Bader products in my morning routine. Now, on days when I know I'm going to be outside all day, which is not rare, I do something completely different. Well, not completely different. I get rid of the Plated, I get rid of the Skin Medica, I get rid of the Bader Rich Cream, and I apply something called C Elements MD. And I'll spell that. CIELEMENTS MD. It's a medical grade product that's made using CBD. CBD is interesting because it was very popular for a while in skincare, and then it sort of went away because as they discovered that it doesn't sink into your skin very well. They put CBD on your face, it just kind of sits there. But this guy I know who was head of the dermatology department at George Washington University, when he was a student at Einstein Medical School, which is like about a mile from where I am, developed these little tiny pouches. They're nano-sized pouches. And they figured out a way to put the CBD in these pouches. The pouches slip through and get into your skin and make the CBD effective. Now, why CBD? Because A, it's a really great antioxidant. It's 6 times more powerful than vitamin C as an antioxidant. 2, CBD has been found to block the UV rays that cause DNA damage in your skin. So if I'm going to be out in the sun all day, I put on this stuff. and then you have to put a suntan lotion on over that. But it's a moisturizer. It gives you your antioxidant protection. It does good things for your skin. The only drawback is, I'll say this despite the fact that I know the guy who makes it, it's not as fun to put on your face as Augustinus Bader. It's just, I mean, I've not found anything that can compete with the Bader as just something to smear on my face. Maybe milk, maybe I just put milk on my face like Cleopatra used to, Maybe that would be similar. All right, so that's the morning. Are you ready for the evening?
Yeah, I am. Yes.
All right, so now my face is dirty because I've been under a boat or, working on my truck or something. So I want to clean it better, and I really like using these cleansing balms made by a company called LMNT, which is owned by L'Occitane and is a British skincare company. They make these balms come in flavors like black cherry and green fig. And when you take it out of the jar, you rub it in your hands so it will melt. And then when you put it on your face, it will foam, like a light little foam. So it starts out like Vaseline and ends up like foam on your face, but it smells awesome.
Which one do you like?
My favorite is black cherry.
Okay.
But then there's green fig, and then there's other more. They probably have like 8 different flavors you could try. And they're not that expensive. I think it's like $45 for a jar of it. I really like it. So after I clean my face with that, now I should say I might also use an oil cleanser if I've loaded up my face with suntan lotion like 3 or 4 times during the day like you're supposed to. I want to make sure I get all that off before I start applying new products. So I will use an oil-based cleanser first, and that's called double cleansing. I generally don't need to do it that much with the LMNT cleansing balm because it pretty much gets everything. But, people should know that like a good way to clean your face is use an oil-based cleanser and then a regular water-based cleanser, and you'll really get your skin nice and clean. The next step is the same as in the first routine. It's optional. I use something called Global Repair Essence from Filorga, the company I mentioned earlier from France. I think it's a good anti-aging type product. Then every other night after that, I will apply retinol of one form or another. Probably the most effective one is called tretinoin, but you need a prescription for it. And I'm not even sure if I pronounce it right because I've just been reading about it. But most of the companies, Ursa Major is a company that makes a really good retinol. Retinols come in different strengths. It's usually best to start out with a 0.25, and before you work your way up to a full 1%. The first few weeks you use it, you probably only use it twice a week for a while because your skin needs to get adjusted to it. But retinol is the number one most effective skincare product that has been invented to this date. And it was invented in the 40s. So despite the fact that skincare companies have spent billions and billions of dollars on research, they haven't been able to. And you never see, it's funny, like when I look at all these trials that people do to test the effectiveness of their product, nobody goes up against retinol. You don't see any of these double-blind studies where, okay, it's this new product and it's retinol and then it's a control. They never include retinol because they know they're going to lose. The day that somebody says it could beat retinol will be a big breakthrough. After that, I use a product from Skin Medica called TNS Advanced. It's kind of expensive. It's not like Bader, but it's maybe $200. But I found that you can get it for 30% off if you go to a website called Skincare Essentials. Now, if you go to the Skin Medica website, they have a list of unauthorized sellers. And Skincare Essentials is an unauthorized seller. It's right on the list. However, I went ahead and ordered some stuff from Skincare Essentials anyway. And then I got the lot and packaging numbers, and I called up SkinMedica and asked them, "Are these legit?" And they said, "Oh yeah, those are right." So I don't know what the whole story is there, but I like getting 30% off, and the product seems just the same and just as effective as if you buy it directly from SkinMedica. SkinMedica is probably my favorite company. If you were just going to use, if you were willing to spend what they charge, and you just wanted to do your whole routine from one company, I'd do it from SkinMedica. Their science is really good. They're owned by Allergen, which makes Botox, and they're in turn owned by AbbVie, the big pharmaceutical company. So they take a real medical grade scientific approach to all of their products, and I think they're pretty great. The TNS Advance is their leader in something called growth factors, which are part of your skin and play a pretty important role. And SkinMedica scientists about 20 years ago figured out a way to culture growth factors from human tissue, and they created a sort of a way of continuing to make that without having to use human tissue. I'm not going to go into the details on what human tissue they use because it wouldn't make anybody happy. But the growth factors in their product is really good. And if you read the reviews for SkinMedica TNS Advance on Amazon, the only major complaint you'll hear is it comes out you press down on the can and it squirts out two things at the same time. And some people have trouble getting those to come out equally and they get all mad about it. But everybody who writes about whether it did anything good for their skin is raving about how great it is. So I use that. That's the main ingredient besides retinol that I use at night. And I often don't use both SkinMedica and retinol on the same night. Sometimes I do, but I also will alternate them. I don't think you need them every day. And then the last thing is the moisturizer to go to sleep. And when I'm using the retinol, I like this product made by a company called LMNT, which is an organic skincare company. They make this thing, this bakuchiol niacinamide cream. And bakuchiol is marketed as an alternative to retinol for people who can't tolerate retinol. But the cool thing about bakuchiol is that it's anti-inflammatory. So if you mix bakuchiol with retinol, the anti-inflammatory part of bakuchiol makes the retinol more tolerable. So there are some products that combine retinol and bakuchiol in one product, and you can go higher with the retinol and with the bakuchiol when they're together. So those tend to be very effective. I know Paula's Choice, that company, makes one of those. I'm not interested in that because I like the other part of this cream, which is the niacinamide, which helps even out the color of my skin on my face. It helps control melanin production and just making your skin look, fewer brown spots, fewer, weird things happening. Niacinamide is a great product. And the other thing that's interesting about niacinamide is you could take it orally, and there's evidence to suggest that oral ingestion of niacinamide can guard against formations of skin cancers. So it's proven to block both squamous and basal, and they're trying to figure out whether it can do the same thing for melanoma, and I don't think they've got there yet on that one. So I really like that product. Then I should mention eye creams. My two favorite eye creams are, which you can use in the morning and at night, and they're a good idea to put under your eyes to create a zone to keep the other stuff from going into your eyes. Because when I first started, one of the biggest problems I had was seeing. It's like this stuff would start to drip down into my eyes, or I'd push it up into my eyes, And I ended up having to walk around with a handkerchief just to keep my eyes clean before I got to be good at this. When you use an eye cream under your eyes, it kind of reminds you not to go anywhere near them with any of this other stuff. And you definitely do not want to get retinol in your eyes. That is a miserable experience. So my two favorite eye creams are Kiehl's. It makes an avocado eye cream, which I just think is wonderful. It's inexpensive and great. And then there's Skin Medica, which I mentioned earlier, makes a eye cream called Instabright. And what's interesting about that is it has little optical fillers in it. So when you put it under your eyes look better immediately. I went to a Blue Mercury in Chicago. This is where I learned about it. And they were having a Skin Medica event, and I was having a facialist was putting some stuff on me, and she put the Skin Medica Instabright under my eyes and held up a mirror, and I didn't recognize myself. I couldn't believe how much of a difference it made. It was it was really incredible. So I bought some.
Where does the Korean one?
Okay, the Dominus for brown spots. So most of my brown spots are on my arms. So I use that on my arms a lot. And not necessarily every day, but it definitely makes the brown spots go away. The back of my hand was covered in brown spots, and can you see it?
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I look like I'm 40 years old. Not the rest of me, but my hand. You could put the Dominus on it's a good moisturizer. You can use that in place of a moisturizer if you want to get rid of your brown spots. It not only makes them go away, but it stops new ones from forming. And really anything you use with niacinamide in it will help, and retinol also helps get rid of brown spots. That's important to remember. So if I'm really stubbornly trying to get rid of something, I will put both retinol and a niacinamide cream on it.
You've got such a deep.
Have I overwhelmed you yet?
This is fabulous. I love a good obsession. This is really good.
I want to tell you about one other product. I use their body lotion. I like using their stuff when I'm traveling because it's a simple routine. There's a company in San Francisco called OneSkin. It's a female-owned company.
Oh, they're great. I know they're scientists.
Yeah, it's an awesome group. And they discovered peptide that can destroy senescent cells. Now, senescent cells are dysfunctional cells on your skin. And what's really bad about them, other than the fact that they're dysfunctional, is that they emit these little missiles that hit other skin cells and turn them into senescent cells. And one way to measure the biological age of skin, is by the number of, I don't know it's not a square inch because that would be, too hard to measure, but, whatever tiny little square they use, how many senescent cells exist within that framework. And the fact that OneSkin can eliminate senescent cells is maybe the only thing that I know where you're actually decreasing the biological age of your skin. And I'm impressed with that. It's something that, if your DNA has been battered by the sun and environmental factors and by drinking too much alcohol and everything else, you're going to keep producing senescent cells. So if you stop using this product, you're going to end up right back where you were before. But while you're using the product, you definitely technically have younger skin than you had before. So I think that's worth mentioning. And I smear that stuff all over my arms and legs and torso. I leave my butt alone. I think, it's one of the things that anybody can do is just take a look at the skin on your butt and compare that to the rest of your body, and you see, what protecting your skin does for you over time, over years, decades. And, that's why we have, baby skin on our asses. Okay to talk about it in a podcast? I don't know.
You can say whatever you want. It's my show. It's fine. Okay, just a few more questions here. So you seem to have done a radical 180 from unprotected skin on a sailboat to I think I've got about 5 in the morning and 5 in the evening and some optional stuff there. So this is a very radical move. I guess how does that inform your thoughts of men's skincare in general?
Well, I didn't expect to like it as much as I do. And I really enjoy the process. And, you were describing what it was like to use your red light mask. I find it, if you do it the right way, it's a great it's for me, it's like in the morning when I roll out of bed, I'm not ready to do anything. I'm like in a coma. So if I just, I keep my products in a wooden box I made that's under my bed, and I just slide it out between my legs and I start into it, and I find that it's just a very nice way to wake up. And then at night, it's sort of one of the last things I do. Well, I've changed. I used to do it as the last thing, but now I'm doing it before I read in bed because that lets the stuff sink into my skin more so I don't get it all over my pillow. But at night, it's a very meditative process. It slows you down from the whole day, and just if you're really paying attention to what you're doing, it's very similar to meditation, and I really value that. And like if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have known that it's something I really like. I'm not just doing this because I feel obligated, or it's one of those things where you got to take care of yourself. There's plenty of things I do where I don't take care of myself, but this is one that it's just fun for me. And, the other thing that I have to say is that my wife has responded really positively to this. The difference between me rubbing my face up against hers now and what it was, a year ago is night and day. So, that's made a big difference.
What's next for you?
Well, I'm thinking about that. Like, this story got really a lot of positive attention, and everywhere I go now, people are asking me about, well, what do you think of this product? And I'm started the red light thing. I'm thinking I might keep going, like that, that maybe there's a Substack in here for me, or possibly a book. I've looked at the books that have been done on skincare, and I don't really see the kind of book a journalist would do that was, really well reported and not, self-interested. One of the problems with the skincare industry is that everybody is self-interested. You go to a dermatologist, they're going to say, well, just buy, stuff at the drugstore and, use a moisturizer and maybe vitamin C. But if you really want to spend money, come to us and get a, dermabrasion or, whatever. Maybe we'll shoot you with some Botox. And then, facialists and estheticians, they're great people, but they carry certain lines of products and have a commercial relationship with the products that they carry. So how do you get, really good independent advice about this? And then the internet is full of all these influencers who don't know what the hell they're talking about. They've done no reporting. They just all talk to each other all the time, and that's not really doing anybody any good. So, I never thought like that. Obviously, never thought that part of my life would end up being devoted to skincare. But I'm reluctant to let it go after seeing how delighted people are when they change what they're doing and see great results. It's, the health and quality of your skin makes an enormous difference to your sense of self. And, think about all the nerve endings in your skin and your face, and like how close they are to your brain, and how if something, little bug lands on part of your skin, you immediately are aware of it if it's on your face. You might not even notice if it's on your leg. So anything good is making happy signals, to the brain. And anything bad is like bringing the brain down. It's like, this is depressing. So, there's a lot to it. A lot more to it than I thought. Plus, I really want to go to Korea and see a place where they harvest snail mucin.
A couple of thoughts that come to my mind. This idea that I talk about frequently, it's not too late. So you're at 70, you got deeply into skincare, which, another person would have said, well, it's too late. I'm not going to get into that.
It's not too late. It's not too late if you're 90.
Right. Love that. And
and your skin, as you get older, your skin becomes more of a problem because it thins out and it gets, almost translucent. And so you want to keep it, healthy and vibrant so you don't have those problems.
I think the other thing that you're tapping into, it's not just the skin. It's the idea of men's self-care sort of over a certain age. You see, younger men are much more attuned to this sort of thing than like people our age. But there's a Topol's book, Super Age, or there's like a T, these sort of like longevity performance sort of things. Okay, but you're talking about something quite different, which is just this sort of joyful self-care that I think of like the antithesis is like a Hemingway or something. Like, oh my God, like didn't work out so well for him. So
Charles Bronson,
Right.
I mean, those are the role models that I grew up with,
Right?
And like you're supposed to look like you got run over by a truck. It's not. You don't have to go that route. And we're in a much more visual time than we were back then. And they were on the screen in black and white, and or not nearly the high definition that exists today. And I think skincare really started to explode during COVID because people were looking at themselves on their computer, just like this, and say, geez, I don't, like the way I look. What can I do?
Right.
It's a huge thing. It's huge. But it does make you feel better about yourself to take care of yourself if you're that kind of person. If you're, there's some guys our age who are just absolutely resistant to this. But they're also, like women increasingly think about the fact that, like, I want to be with a guy who takes care of himself because I don't want to be the one doing it, when he's 80, right? I want him to take care of himself because I'm having a hard enough time taking care of myself.
That's right.
And I think there's a lot of pressure coming from the opposite sex on men, to shape up.
There's a deep well there that you can really run with, and I think the skincare is definitely the gateway, but I think there's a lot there.
It's psychological, it's sociological. There's a interesting business story here because, like, why the hell does Augustinus Bader cost $300? And why does one hyaluronic acid cost $300, and you can buy another one online for $10. What's that all about?
I got a pretty good idea on that.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know the specifics. I'd like to know how much they're really making. I mean, it's not a coincidence that the richest woman in the world is the heiress to the L'Oreal fortune. And what does it really cost to make these things? Like, what does it actually cost?
We'll be right back with John Koten after a message from our sponsors who pay for this show. Did you know that just pounding water all day is not going to keep you hydrated? You need the right mix of electrolytes in that water to help that water be absorbed properly and also to help your body function well with the right electrolytes. LMNT contains sodium, potassium, and magnesium, which are critical for helping our brains and our bodies function. One of the unfortunate facts is as we get older, it's harder to drink water, essentially because our thirst response is diminished. So we need to put extra emphasis on drinking water, staying hydrated with the right electrolytes. Of course, if you are pre-hypertensive or have hypertension, check with your doctor before having anything with sodium in it. For the rest of us, though, LMNT is a great solution. Go to drinkelement.com. That's DRINK, LMNT.com, and get yourself a free 8-serving sample pack with the purchase of any electrolyte drink mix. So I have a friend who used to work in one of those companies in Geneva, and he said, this is how it works. There'll be a development, and it comes in at the very highest price point. And then it slowly sort of works its way down through the product line over about 5 years. And then at the end of 5 years or so, the same product that cost hundreds of dollars is in the drugstore for $10. It's the same in a different container, but it's the same thing.
Yep.
So there's a lot of really clever market price point differentiation and communication that goes on. My guess is the $300 Bader is probably very, very high quality, but it's sort of one of those, like, if you have something that's 98% as good, does it cost 98% as much or half?
Right. Well, even if you've got the quality is, I mean, this is another question I have. Even if, there's a company called Medical Beauty Research in Germany. His whole reputation is based on the high quality of the ingredients it uses. But what I don't know is, does it matter whether the ingredients are that high quality?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. No idea.
It may be way better. I mean, most people would be fine just going to the drugstore and sticking with CeraVe or La Roche-Posay. That's another L'Oreal brand. Very high quality stuff. Yeah, it probably was sold for 3 times as much, sometime in the past. Maybe it even came from worked its way down from their high-end products to Kiehl's down to, CeraVe. I don't know.
My beauty treatment is I use tinted CeraVe sunblock, and I use it before I go on camera because it works really good as like foundation makeup. My skin looks really good with it.
Yeah, my sister uses the same thing. Loves it.
It's $12. John, this has been delightful, and I'm so glad we connected, and I'm very much looking forward to where this is going to go. There is a wide open field there. This reminds me, remember George Plimpton?
Yes.
I'm not suggesting you play a linebacker for the Chicago Bears. It didn't work out for him there either, but he
did a bunch of those things.
A bunch of crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
This isn't crazy like that, but it's like, okay, I'm going to go into this thing that nobody else is doing. Okay, I'm 70 years old. Yeah, so what? I'm going to investigate this and see how this works, because one of the intersections here, I know we're both interested in this longevity topic, is that, like, if you're a 70-year-old man in the U.S. and you're reasonably good health, there's a really good chance you're going to live in your mid-90s, maybe 100. And so, okay, that really changes the whole way we look at skincare and the way we look at all these things.
You're right. That's a great point.
You're going to be around for another, 20, 25 years.
Right. If I thought I was going to die in 5 years, I'd be, out doing something else.
Yeah, exactly. John, thank you so much. Well, I know we're going to get email about this. So I'll have them reach to us, and then I'll forward them to you so that you don't get barraged with this stuff.
Yeah, that would be the best. I don't really want to give out my own email yet. I think I'm going to have to create an email that's specifically for this, but I don't have that yet.
Okay. We will build your filter, and anyone who wants to write in and you have questions for John, I promise I will get them to him. And as you can tell here, if you're a guy of a certain age, John is your authority.
Oh, I got 30-year-old women asking me.
Okay, that too. We're just going to say skin authority, end of story. There we go.
Yeah, I think amateur skin authority. I'm not a professional. It's very important for me to say I'm not a dermatologist and I'm not a professional esthetician or licensed. But I have done a lot of research about it, and I don't have an axe to grind. It's just impartial point of view.
And I will say, what attracted me to your piece is not just the content, but the way it was written. I read this and I thought, this guy's fun. I want to talk to this guy. So I really appreciate the writing style too.
Oh, I appreciate that.
All right. Take care, John. It's been a pleasure.
You too. Thanks.
So Margaret, I thought that was super interesting. First of all, I love an obsession. Like 6 months was just after the Wall Street Journal said go. So he'd been in this for a couple months beforehand. There's so much that I found was interesting. So he mentions this product, Augustus Bader, which I've seen my wife has used. It's frighteningly expensive. It's like a little tube for $350. But the reason he gives is not because it works better than any other ones. He just loves the way it goes on. Like I thought what was so interesting about this was yes, he's, sort of discerned N of one him, what works best on him, but he's really gone into this whole other realm of not so much, yeah, it's effective, but he really like he talks, he's like, oh, I put it on I just feel good. Like it just feels really good. And it's like, all right, I guess they're, $350. That's dinner for two twice a week. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think he's touching on something that has been kind of marketed to women, especially in skincare, right? Of like this ritualistic
Mm.
point of skincare. It's just like a routine. It makes you feel good. Half the time, do the products really actually do anything? Do people use them long enough to actually see a result? Because there's also this idea of like cycling products, and it does because of like how it smells and how it feels. Like I find that people can become like addicted to skincare in a way. And so, like, yeah, like, there is that part of it of, like, does it just feel good? Like, great, like, then you can keep using it, but to use something for $350 if it's not actually I don't know if I would, but
I'm not. I actually, after the call, I, of course, created a spreadsheet with all the products that he named. I'm particularly interested in the Dominus, whatever that stuff is from, like snail film. I don't know what it
or
is.
the snail mucosa or
Yes,
something
snail
like
mucus from Korea. Can't wait to see like how that's harvested. So that stuff's not bad. I think it's like $50 on Amazon. So it's a whole spreadsheet of all the different stuff and like how he does it, which
he approached it like a true journalist. He
yeah.
went, like, head in, fully immersed.
But I think that this idea of the value prop, so there's sort of two things going on here, right? There's the what's the impact on how you look,
Mhm,
but there's also the pleasure factor of just applying the goop.
mhm.
I remember I had a conversation with my dermatologist a couple of years ago about I was like, "How do you do all this?" She just sort of gave me this like, "This is the routine. You these 5 things in the morning, these 5 things." And I was like, "Really?" And she's like, actually, some people just find this meditative, that they just like smearing goop on their face because, I mean, that's sort of derogatory. They like applying products to their face because it just feels good. And I was like, okay, that's a value. That's reasonable.
Yeah, it allows you to kind of slow down. It can be a meditative practice, and I feel like it's a way to kind of unwind. I mean, even if you're thinking about, like, just putting stuff on your face,
Yeah.
not even, like, if you're doing, like, lymphatic massage or anything, people can combine that, but just the act of kind of massaging things
Yeah.
on your face, it does have a nervous system calm and reset that is helpful at the beginning and end of the day, so that might be more so it, not necessarily the product, but maybe the combination of those 2, like the sensory touch and the product, and then for some people, the idea of like, oh, if they are using a $350 product, it feels luxurious,
Yeah.
maybe placebo effect of, "Oh, this is so expensive, so it must work."
I find the whole thing fascinating and I'm not gonna go for the Augustus Bader $350 tiny tube of moisturizer, but I'm sure I'll find something else that's reasonably good. But I'm gonna give it a shot with the rest of it for a few months and get back in touch with John and just say like, "Okay, I added it up. This is what this costs. This is what happened to me." Um, and we have another conversation. I'm at the end of the conversation, I mean, what I did is I said to him like, "Listen, like you've really landed on this white space that no one else is doing, not that I know of anyway. This is a straight guy. He's like a Hemingway character who's a sailor who at 70 decided to get into like this realm and really love it. He has the box. He has a special wooden box that he made where he keeps all this stuff under his bed and then he pulls it out in the morning. I just love that. Like,
Oh, I love that for him too. I feel like, again, most of the skincare is kind of it's been marketed and it's associated with the space of, like, beauty, which is inherently I guess they've decided just for women, but men have skin too. It's the largest organ we all
yeah,
have, and yeah, it can be like a source of pleasure, like you were saying, and I feel like for a huge marketing kind of miss for people who haven't marketed it to all types of men, regardless of how they identifying straight, gay, whatever, like I feel like straight men should love skincare.
Which is another point that he brought up. He said what he found was that women like men who take care of themselves,
Yep.
because if the man's not taking care of himself, guess what's got to happen? The woman's got to take care of herself and him. So somebody who can like manage this stuff on their own, that's what he said. I don't know, you're a woman. What do you think about that?
Oh, no, I totally agree. I feel like it's always a good sign. I remember, like, even when I was dating, I would always look at a man's fingernails, how clean they
Oh.
were. Uh,
Ooh,
and yeah, they're kind of just hygiene skincare practices.
right.
Because it's a sign that you're taking care of yourself, you're wanting to invest in your own health. I think that skincare can sometimes, for some people, seem like a vanity practice. Taking care of yourself, it's a positive form of vanity if you really wanna kind of, like, focus on, yeah, just your, like, well-being. You wanna if you look good, you feel good, and for some people, like, that varies to what extent they want to change or invest in how they're looking. That's everyone's personal preference, but, I think skincare can be a relatively accessible way for people to feel good.
I just want to rebrand this whole vanity thing. Like, as Dr. Connie Mariano told me, she was the head of White House Medical for a couple of presidents, and she said, vanity is the gateway to health and wellness. Like, you can't have great looking skin if you're smoking, drinking, and eating crap. So I think that there's, I, I I don't know, maybe it's because we're brought up in the culture that we are that like vanity is a bad thing, but I think it's like wanting to look good is really parallel to wanting to be healthy.
Mhm.
And so I'm kind of okay with that. But
Yeah, and I think it kind of gets into this idea too of, like, you have to be a little bit selfish when you wanna take care of your health, and being selfish has
yeah,
been seen as a negative thing, but, yeah, it's all about the approach. I feel like if you're putting that into yourself, then you're able to give that out to other people, and skincare is just one way that people might be able to do that.
we might have overreached on this, but I'm okay with it. I'm all right. So in news and what's going on around here, things are quite busy. We have, as I may have mentioned, one of my other initiatives is superage.com and our newsletter there. We're over 1.2 million people in 7 months. So that has become, there's like a whole team that I have to manage there, and HR is not my strong point. So that's kind of interesting. In addition to what we do at AGEIST and this podcast and our social, poor me, poor me. Okay. Yeah. All right. I signed up for this and I really love it all. The thing that's becoming really difficult is ugh, my knee. Ugh. People keep reminding me this was major surgery. So my distance I can walk. Last night I walked a little too far. I walked about 6 blocks, maybe 7 blocks. And so this morning, my knee is swollen up again. My foot is swollen up again. And like managing this, I'm now starting to investigate peptides, what other sort of like compression therapy, voodoo flossing, like all kinds of stuff to deal with this because patience is really not my strong point. And I don't like that 5 weeks after this, I still have this swollen thing and I just need to let it heal. So I know it's a lesson in self-control and patience. These are both qualities that after 66 years, I'm still not very good with, but it's being forced into me. So it does get better. I will tell you, I have enormous gratitude for the surgeons and the whole team at Hospital for Special Surgery in New York, where I got this done. It's just best in class, and I'm so lucky to have them. And one of the things I'm doing, why I'm in New York now and not Park City, they have a lot of great physical therapy, but it's not HSS, which is just like another sort of planet of this sort of thing. So I'm going over there today, and they'll probably give me some other annoying little exercise that will allegedly improve my knee, and I will follow it because I'm that kind of guy. You give me an instruction, I'm going to do it. So anyway, the saga continues. It's a wonderful day to be in New York. It's great to be alive. And hey, I've got a knee, which is better than some people, and it does work okay. And I'm anticipating in 6 months it's going to work really well. So, process, right? Life's a process. It's a journey. This week on Just Try This, working off of John Koten, I think where he's talking about here, yeah, it's skincare, but this is like a subdivision of self-care. So think about something this week that you can do to give yourself pleasure and also care for yourself. Maybe that's taking a little longer washing your face. Maybe that's a little longer brushing your teeth. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's just when I suggest you drink 2 glasses of water in the morning, that's an act of self-care. If we are involved in self-care, we are valuing ourselves. This is an act of self-love, right? And one of the things that I've learned over the years of doing this is that we got to love ourselves first. And sometimes what is helpful in this is just taking these little steps, taking a little longer washing our face, taking a little time, I don't know, taking care of our fingernails. That's Margaret's thing, or whatever else. But think of something that you can do this week that's a simple act of self-care, and you're probably going to feel better about yourself. That's it for Just Try This week. Thank you all for joining us this week, and have a wonderful week. Spend a little time washing your face, see how it feels. We'll see you next week. Take care now.